Story 1. People don't understand how exhausting it can be to constantly fight with your own brain to do the simplest tasks, or how deeply it affects your self-esteem when you're labeled as lazy or inattentive. Story 2. I wish people understood that attention deficit hyperactivity disorder doesn't just affect your ability to focus. It really needs to be renamed. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder changes your brain chemistry and the way that different parts of the brain communicate with each other, which means that it has a ton of side effects that affect every part of our daily lives. We have trouble with executive function, which means that no matter how hard we may want to do something, we may not be able to force ourselves to do it. We struggle with motivation because every task is high priority, yet our brains don't reward us for completing them. We have sensory issues because we cannot control which things to pay attention to and which things to block out. Some of us, like me, are not capable of blocking anything out unless we're hyper-focused, in which case I will sometimes literally forget to breathe. We have auditory processing issues, and I couldn't tell you why. As far as I know, it's just to make our lives harder. On the bad days, speech has no meaning, it's just sound. It's like the adults talking in Peanuts cartoons. We want to listen, but it's just noise. We have trouble regulating our emotions. It's different for everyone, but for me, emotions are either unbearably intense or non-existent, and there is no middle ground. There's so much going on for us at any given moment that it's no wonder we can't pay attention. It's exhausting. It's not cute or funny, even though we do enjoy poking fun at ourselves. I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that most of us would give anything to have our brains function normally. Story 3. The environment around you can really overstimulate you when it doesn't bother others. Then you get irritated and people don't understand why. Something like Chuck E. Cheese or an arcade is pure hell. Story 4. There's a lot of things that people with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder deal with that sound very relatable to everyone and make them say, "Oh yeah, I'm like that too." One example I've noticed is that if you have something you need to attend later in the day, such as a doctor's appointment, it's hard to get anything done beforehand, and it feels like you're just kind of existing until then. The problem then, and the big problem with having attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is having to try and explain just how massive an issue it is for someone with this condition compared to someone who does not have it. Like what a massive wall this late appointment is to get literally anything done. It's hard to explain how a minor inconvenience for most is a colossal problem for us. And that's partly because it is just extremely difficult to explain what is happening in your head, especially in a way that makes any rational sense. The best description I've heard is that it's like trying to knowingly place your hand on a hot stove. Story 5. Object permanence. If an object does not have a home where it belongs, it ends up in a pile or lost. If I cannot see something, I forget it exists. There are a bunch of clothes hanging in my closet that I have forgotten exist because I do not see them. Dressers do not work. I have to fold my clothes and stack them on a shelf where I can see them at a glance. Food often gets tossed to my chickens because I have found it at the back of the fridge when it is already past its prime. Grocery shopping once a week is really difficult because I have to plan and shop for a week's worth of meals rather than just a meal or two that are on my mind at the moment. Story 6. One big thing people don't understand is how exhausting it is to constantly have your brain jumping from one thing to another. It's like trying to focus on a conversation while hearing 10 other conversations happening in your head. Also, it's not just being easily distracted. It's about having difficulty organizing thoughts, managing time, or following through on tasks, even if you really want to. The struggle to just focus isn't laziness. It's a brain that works differently. People also don't realize how much energy it takes to try and keep up with everything. The feeling of being overwhelmed is constant. And let's not forget how frustrating it can be when people say, "You don't look like you have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder." It's invisible, but it's real. Story 7. Rejection-sensitive dysphoria is a big one. Rejection-sensitive dysphoria makes us sensitive to criticism and rejection, whether or not it is real or imagined. This colored the majority of my interactions as a teen and made maintaining friendships very difficult. Seeing friends hang out without me, being told I did something wrong, people not responding immediately made me very sensitive to the idea of being annoying while simultaneously making me very annoying to interact with. I see so many adults with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and untreated rejection-sensitive dysphoria that frequently lash out from a place of insecurity. Working on it will drastically improve your outlook on your social life. Story 8. That immense feeling of relief when you were sure you missed something very important, only to discover it is coming up very soon. That panic and self-loathing as you struggle to get remotely prepared for the aforementioned very important something and hope you have not screwed yourself too badly this time. Story 9. It is truly a special kind of hell to be a perfectionist in the deepest reaches of your soul, but at the same time not have the drive or ability to achieve said perfection. Story 10. If they can't see it, they don't think it's real. Not having an executive function isn't seen as a disability but as a moral failure. Thus, you are a bad person when you do something hyperactive, impulsive, or emotionally dysregulated. After diagnosis, I made peace with this and stopped beating myself up for all the ruined relationships, stupid things said or done, failures, and time lost to hyperfocus. Sure, I upset people. I don't mean to. It's not a moral failure. And once medicated, I am seeing the world differently now. Most people who don't have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder don't get it. They never will. But that's okay so long as we can be gentle on ourselves and supported by those who do. Story 11. I trip and stumble over my words constantly when I'm speaking because by the time I finished a single sentence, 300 million new things happened in my brain. Story 12. Time blindness is crazy. I don't get it on a small level like hour to hour, but I'll swear up and down we talked to each other a few days ago, and it will have been months. My brain is going a million miles an hour, especially if I'm in an upbeat mood. I can't tell you how many times I've forgotten something as simple as flushing a toilet just because something broke my routine. I got off the toilet and there was something weird on the floor in the corner. So I looked at it, washed my hands, and headed out. I'm not disgusting, I swear. My brain just breaks sometimes. If I remember to, before I leave, I'll take inventory. I washed my hands. I flushed the toilet. Keys, wallet, and phone are still in my pocket. I'll repeat to myself all morning, take out the trash, take out the trash, take out the trash, put the trash in the bin, and then forget to wheel the bin to the curb. Story 13. You constantly have music lyrics playing in your head all day long. I've had about a dozen words from Go With The Flow by Queens of the Stone Age in my head for about an hour now, for example. Random thoughts from any point in your life just start popping up. Last night, a random comment someone said to me about 25 years ago played in my head about a dozen times in a couple of hours, in between 80s music lyrics. Story 14. The medication really makes a huge difference. I was diagnosed at 36 after 2 graduate degrees and a bar exam. I was so upset when I received medication because I suddenly didn't have to spend 40% of my brain power trying to manage my brain. It's like a computer constantly running Adobe Photoshop or some other massive program in the background. It slows everything down. I could have been president by now with a childhood diagnosis and access to medication. Is it this easy for people without attention challenges? You just do the task? What is going on? Story 15. Without my medications, I am incredibly unpleasant to be around and struggle to do basic tasks. Yet every month I have to fight for them because of the class of drugs they are. I know they are stimulants and susceptible to abuse, but they don't do that for me. I only notice when I don't take them because I start to get irritable and fatigued. They don't make me feel high at all. They just give me a better baseline. But I am treated like a drug seeker every time. Story 16. I am absolutely dying to do the thing. I want to do the thing more than you want me to have done the thing. Not having done the thing is ruining every minute I spend not doing the thing. But I cannot do the thing right now. Story 17. How easily it is to forget. I get a lot of criticism for forgetting conversations I've already had, or a task I had planned that unfortunately time went by. People swear that I'm not listening, which isn't the case. I just don't always remember events, and it's frustrating for me too. Really it is. Story 18. Many people who have it don't even realize it because their doctor misdiagnosed them with depression, and the medications are doing nothing to help. That is how I found out I had it and eventually got tested. A random telehealth counselor noticed I was resistant to every antidepressant I was prescribed and suggested ADHD testing. It blows my mind how no doctor or psychiatrist ever considered that to be a possibility in the past, yet someone with an associate's degree figured it out after a few minutes. Story 19. Bumping into furniture, interrupting people, time blindness, trouble reading at length, forgetting scheduled events, excessive daydreaming, maybe only attention deficit hyperactivity disorder inattentive type? There are many. There are different types of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I am inattentive type, so I talk very little, and much of my symptoms are inward. Story 20. I know you know what it's like not to want to do something, but I don't think you can understand how that means I actually can't, until the anxiety of not doing the thing overcomes the not wanting to. Story 21. I'm not forgetful. I'm not just not paying attention. My attention is like a laser beam, not a spotlight. I'm hyper-focused on one task at a time. Literally, time stands still, and I'll focus everything on that task. I'm also trying my best to prioritize those tasks, knowing I can miss things. Even if it's simple, like when I went to the store. There's ice cream, and I need to get that ice cream into the freezer before it melts. I also know if I do anything before that, I'll forget. So I'm grabbing those bags first and getting those things in the freezer. Boom, got that done. Yet where the heck did I put my keys? Story 22. Hypervigilance is extremely exhausting. It's like the most tedious version of what the guy in the television show Psych does, except it's all anxiety-based and intelligence gathering for better masking. You're spotting micro-expressions on people's faces or sauce on their tie and wondering if they don't like talking to you, while also trying to guess which chicken sandwich shop they ate lunch at. Now you're thinking which shop is your favorite and then which country invented fried chicken. All of this unnecessary information is a traffic jam blocking what Bill from accounting just said, and you just want to run. Story 23. ADHD isn't just attention issues. It's intense emotional roller coasters that we hate going through and sensory issues. Also, interacting with neurotypical people is very draining for us because we spend the entire time masking. We may love you deeply, but we mask without even wanting to. We need opportunities to recharge our social battery. Story 24. If they can't see it, they don't think it's real. Not having an executive function isn't seen as a disability but as a moral failure. Thus, you are a bad person when you do something hyperactive, impulsive, or emotionally dysregulated. After diagnosis, I made peace with this and stopped beating myself up for all the ruined relationships, stupid things said or done, failures, and time lost to hyperfocus. Sure, I upset people. I don't mean to. It's not a moral failure. And once medicated, I am seeing the world differently now. Most people who don't have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder don't get it. They never will. But that's okay as long as we can be gentle on ourselves and supported by those who do. Story 25. The irrational rage when someone innocently interrupts a hyperfocus. The frustration of desperately wanting to do the task, but the brain is like, nah, what about unimportant thing? Story 26. That women are so grossly misdiagnosed because it presents just differently enough that it gets mixed up as anxiety, borderline personality disorder, depression, etc. I've been diagnosed with anxiety and depression since I was 16, and now, at 35, have been diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Depression and anxiety tend to be comorbid, so the attention deficit hyperactivity disorder gets missed. It's not all bouncing, happy, hyper behaviors, particularly in females. Story 27. No one has mentioned the rejection-sensitive dysphoria. It's a massive issue for me, and it has had a really big negative impact on most of my relationships. It has also held me back from forming relationships. I'm hoping that now I know what's going on, I can tackle it a bit better. One positive is that I have amazing problem-solving skills because I'm hypercritical and I see things in multi-layered ways. Story 28. There's no I just don't want to, and there's no I just don't care enough. It's seriously a struggle when people tell you it's a self-discipline issue. Story 29. I'm going to throw a positive one out there on behalf of my sister with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I think people don't understand that attention deficit hyperactivity disorder can also be an asset, in a way, if people become more accepting of neurodiversity. My sister is incredibly intelligent and has pretty severe attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. She works in surgery, and the fast-paced environment actually works really well for her. She can channel her bird brain side, as well as the super focus side of her, depending on what's needed. Something about that environment makes it easier to train your brain to switch back and forth between those modes at the appropriate moments. Her son is just over 1 and clearly is also extraordinarily intelligent and has pretty severe attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Because she understands him so well, she's just been focused on creating a supportive environment so that he can thrive as a very intelligent child with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. If there were more parents like that, I think the potential of people with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder would truly be unlocked.